Hey, if your sales funnel isn't performing the way you thought it should be doing right now, you probably think it needs better copy, better persuasion, maybe some more ads to get it going. But today I'm going to walk you through something you might be missing and what most business owners are missing in that they're not connecting with their audience, not connecting how the audience has specific doubts and hesitations that are quietly within your sales funnel, stopping all those people from moving forward. You might actually look at them and say, these are all just bad leads. They're not qualified. They're not moving forward. But what they're all being kind of stuck in the mud with is specific doubts that you haven't addressed in your sales funnel. And a lot of these people aren't willing to move forward because of that. And today I'm going to show you a specific lens, a specific framework that I came up with called the four doubts. I'll walk you through each of them. I'll even give you a company example to really bring this to life, really brought it to life for me. What you're going to find is that you don't have to make major changes to your sales funnel. All you have to do is call out these doubts and hesitations in your audience's mind and really give them a path forward. And the really the key benefit, what I've seen in my own work is I'm not the best copywriter, I'm not the best CRO specialist, but what I am really good at is uncovering those doubts with your audience. And once you do that, once you can uncover these things and these hesitations, it doesn't take a lot of work for a significant amount of conversions to come through. I've seen it time and time again where I did 15 minutes of work and I see double digit conversion lifts. I see increases in upsells. I see double digit gross margin increases by just a little bit of work, by really calling out something specific for your audience, giving them a little bit of relief can go a long way in seeing dramatic increases in your sales funnel. And I'll walk you through today on how you do that. As I walk you through, take a look at your audience, take a look at your sales funnel. Are you addressing these doubts and really bringing them to life as we go along? So let me just bring it up, just kind of bring it to life for for everybody, kind of just walking you through the four doubts that I talk about. And let's walk you through. So, doubt number one is your audience is sitting there and they're thinking that it's just me. And again, how I really am able to kind of decipher a lot of these things is you go back in my past and my experiences, I had that voice of doubt was super loud in my head. So, a lot of this is going through my own experience of going through marketing and eventually getting help. But really recognizing that for a lot of your prospects, it's the same. Like one of the things I realized is that I have a really loud voice of doubt in my head, but most of your prospects do as well, and most people that are out there have this as well. And all I'm really doing is articulating this, bringing it to the surface. And if you could do the same for your audience, you're going to see much better conversions, much better leads. You're going to see better buyers. You're going to see people buying more of your upsells as well. So doubt number one is it's just me. So this is something I dealt with in my own experience. Anytime I had a problem, I just thought that I was kind of sitting there in isolation. Like, okay, I'm this. I'm believing that my situation, like nobody else is dealing with this. And this is the same, really kind of like ditch that your audience is sitting in as well. So like they're dealing with the problem that maybe your solution solves for them, but they don't really recognize that they are dealing with a problem that thousands or even millions of people are dealing with as well. So they're kind of sitting in that cage of isolation and they're kind of feeling bad for themselves. And there's a good bit of shame there. So it's a very, a silent shame, but anytime somebody is sitting in isolation and shame and not able to move forward, they're not going to be the greatest lead for you. So again, think about this internal shift that they're going through. We want to shift them from, I'm the only one dealing with this, to this is more common than I thought. And the way to really do that is to really get down into their understanding. So again, you can see the tools here in terms of specific scenarios, recognizable moments, customer language. Like let them know, share some of those stories of people that are just like them, that have gone through all that. And what that's going to do is get them out of this cage of isolation. It's going to make them feel better about themselves, and it's going to make it more likely that they have the confidence to really move forward. They feel safe and they're actually excited about a solution because they know they're not, this person sitting in isolation anymore. So that's doubt number one. Doubt number two is even when we get them out of isolation, they kind of sit there and think like, even if my problem is not unique, it's still my fault. So again, the best example I can think of here is really thinking about diet, weight loss. People just feel like they don't have enough willpower. They can't avoid the cakes or the cookies or anything out there that would help them lose weight. So it's just all my fault that I'm not able to lose weight. So right here, again, we want to, take them out of that shame that they're in. They're kind of pointing the finger at themselves. So they think all their past failures are because of personal weakness or their willpower or whatever it is. And we want to shift them from I keep failing to I was solving the wrong problem. So here, one of the easiest ways is to kind of give them relief in terms of, hey, again, go back to that dining example, like eating less and moving more. Like, hey, that's the wrong approach, especially for certain people. So again, go back to, especially in the women's health field, where especially as you get older, cortisol is something is a hormone that can cause you to not lose weight, but eating less and moving more can actually raise that cortisol. That's kind of a mechanism that I introduced to the audience that I was working with to give them relief and saying, like, hey, the traditional type of approaches that you have followed for 10, 20 years and haven't seen results, here's something that you didn't know. Here's a specific hormone that you didn't know about. And once I explain that, and once I explain how eating less and moving more is increasing their cortisol and some of the reasons why they're not able to lose weight, it gives them a relief and it gives them a separate path on where they can go to next. So again, examples, reframing the root cause, again, gives them relief and says, like, hey, maybe this is not all my fault. Maybe I just was taught the wrong way. Maybe I just didn't have the right path. Maybe I didn't have the right education here. But now that I do, I can see that path forward for potentially getting results. That gets us to doubt number three. I call this the special snowflake doubt. You can call it the I'm the exception. Even after they get through doubt number one and doubt number two, they start to question, like, hey, my situation is way worse or way unique. So even if other people have gotten results for those other doubts, like, I'm not sure if it's going to work for me. So again, again, that internal shift from this won't work for someone like me to we want to get them to the point where it's people like me are succeeding. So here's where segmentation, here's where testimonials from somebody that looks and sounds exactly like them, talking about the problems that they're dealing with right now, talking about the vision of life and the results that they're looking for, that can go a long way into doing that. So again, one of the key ways that I used this in the past was in an abandoned cart type of sequence. So I was able to use segmentation in terms of various different ages and health problems that they're dealing with. Go to the women's space, and I was using hormone types, and I was able to put specific testimonials in front of them. So a woman that looked exactly like them, talking about the specific problems and the specific kind of like dream scenario that they're looking for. So when you're able to put specific people in front of them, it kind of again brings down that doubt of like, hey, this isn't going to work for my unique situation. So all of a sudden their situation doesn't seem so unique. It seems much more possible because they're seeing people that look and sound just like them, getting the results that they want the most, talking about the problems that they want. And again, as much as possible, we want to echo back their language back to them. And that, one of the ways we can kind of knock down some of these doubts is just making them feel understood and really specifically talking to them. So again, segmentation, personalization goes a long way to, especially with this doubt, the special snowflake doubt of saying like, hey, you're actually not as special as you think. There's a path out of here. Here's people just like you that were able to get results, and we believe you can do the same. And then doubt number four is really kind of this not again. So again, most of the time, your audience has been through and dealing with these problems for a long period of time, or could be, whether it's relationship space, whether it's weight loss. They might have tried a bunch of different things. So they've gone through this whole cycle of, I'm going to get results here, and then they've kind of collapsed into failure or whatever it is along the way. And maybe it took a lot of effort, and they didn't get the results that they were quite looking for. So in the back of their head, they're thinking of that past of like, hey, I put in all that effort before and I didn't get the results that I'm looking for. Is this just going to be another trap? Is it going to be another scam? Is it going to be another thing that my expectations get too high and I just am sitting there with failure again? So we have to address that in terms of, hey, I want to make it really clear in terms of what we're doing here. So this is not laziness per se. It's just really kind of the exhaustion more than anything else. So moving from I don't have it in me to I can take the first step. So being really clear in terms of like, this is not climbing another huge mountain again. We're just giving you a step-by-step process that seems super clear. It doesn't take a ton of effort. We want to make it really transparent in what you have to do so you know what progress looks like for you over time. You might experience setbacks, but we're going to be very clear on when you're going to go through those and how to address those. And we're going to get in front of them as much as possible. Simple processes, three-step processes, as much as possible if you can, and make it really clear like what is that next first step for them. It doesn't take a mountain of effort. It's not going to take years. It's not going to take 5 years. It's not going to take hustling and grinding to get there. I want to make it really clear on, hey, what can they do in the next 24 hours to start getting that result that they're looking for? And that result is not going to take a tremendous amount of effort that they've been going through before. So those are the four doubts in terms of what is out there. I think what really crystallized it for me is really bringing forward kind of an example of what this might look like. So again, I'm going to use a company example here. I'm just going to show you just briefly what that is. Um, uh, I was thinking about. So this is Solace. What they are is in the healthcare space. They're kind of a technology company that has been able to connect people, particularly on Medicare, but going forward, even people that have insurance with what they call patient advocates. So patient advocates aren't things that are widely known, but these are really former doctors, former nurses, people within the medical field that really understand the industry, and they become your advocate for going through some of those more crisis type of healthcare type of scenarios like cancer and end of life type of scenarios like dementia, Alzheimer's, all those kind of things where there's a lot of complexity within the healthcare space, whether it's dealing with insurance and getting claims paid for or finding a second opinion, all these kind of things. You can have a patient advocate, in this case, paid for by insurance or paid for by Medicare, that is going to help you along, kind of this person that's going to help you guide you along this process that is super painful for a lot of people that are out there, especially in this fragmented healthcare space here in the US. So it's a really great offer. It's almost one of those offers that seems too good to be true. Like my insurance is going to pay for somebody, some former medical expert that's going to walk me through this process. That's going to jump on the phone with my insurance company and make sure my bills are being paid. They're going to find that second opinion. They're going to make this process as easy as possible. It almost seems like too good to be true, especially for the audience that I'll share in just a minute, that has gone through periods where it's just like the insurance company seems like the insurance seems to be nickel and diming me, seems to be denying all my claims. Like, why all of a sudden are they going to be on my side when it comes to this? So again, let's walk through when we walk through the company example of Solace. Let's walk through those four doubts, and it'll kind of bring to life especially if you're looking at your sales funnel, looking at your audience, how this can be applied and how you can start thinking about your funnel as well to do that. So again, let's start with just kind of a little bit of a little bit more on kind of the primary user or audience here. Typically is somebody in Medicare age, so 65 plus. Again, they're expanding their audience over the next few weeks and months to a broader audience, but this is their primary user right now. You're often dealing with cancer, chronic illness, cognitive decline, something towards the end of life, or just, again, something a little bit more crisis oriented, like they just heard from their doctor that they have cancer. They're overwhelmed by insurance. Maybe they've had a bad experience with insurance for the most part over the last few years. They're dealing with all these appointments, conflicting information. One doctor is telling them one thing, another doctor is telling another, and they're just looking for somebody that can kind of give them clarity and kind of reduce confusion and not have them spend 4 or 5 hours on hold with the insurance company all the time. And the other key part is, like, most of them have been failed by the system, whether it's the healthcare system or the insurance companies, or probably a bit of both. So again, there's a huge amount of doubt. This offer kind of seems too good to be true. And we want to walk through the four doubts in terms of what it looks like. So again, doubt number one, in terms of like, it's just me, what this looks like from a Medicare somebody later in life. So I shouldn't be this confused. Everyone seems to have it figured out. Maybe I'm just not understanding it. So again, they kind of look at themselves and they're just like, I'm flawed in some way. They look at their situation and just like, why does everybody else seem to have figured this out in terms of healthcare and solutions and insurance? And I can't figure it out. And again, think about like for their family, like at this point, they might be losing their hearing. They might have lower mobility. They may look looking at the rest of their family and saying like, I don't want to be a burden on these people anymore. So I don't want to bother anyone with this. So again, kind of think about it's just me type of doubts, that quiet shame that they're dealing with. And we, like, again, one of the things that you have to do, especially in your advertising, and one of the things that Solace probably should do more of, is kind of meeting their audience where they are. Get them to understand, like, hey, I know you're dealing with some of these doubts. I know you're dealing with all the confusion that comes with dealing with various doctors, and I can't figure out insurance or how to pay for it, or Medicare payments, or filling out applications, any number of those things. So we want to meet them where they are and make them feel understood, and that's going to help with doubt number one, and letting them know, like, hey, you are not the only one dealing with this, especially in a fragmented healthcare system, especially with insurance. Um, Key for that is just meeting them where they are, make them feel understood, and letting them know that there's millions of other people, certainly in the US, that are dealing with the same problem and have the same level of confusion or misunderstanding or any number of those things. And by doing that, we get them out of that quiet shame and get them moving in the right direction. And that gets us to, doubt number two. So again, even if they get out of that quiet shame, they still have this kind of look at their situation and say, like, hey, if I got into these health situations, it's probably my fault. Maybe I ate the wrong things. Maybe I didn't exercise enough. Maybe I didn't ask the right questions. I should have called this earlier. Maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I worked with one doctor. I should have worked with another doctor. Um, Again, in healthcare space, like, you always have these moments where you're just like, oh, I should have done this versus I should have done that. So again, we have to kind of relieve them, give them some relief. Again, here's where mechanisms, especially from a solace perspective, like, what are some of those mechanisms around giving them some relief and letting them know, like, especially in the fragmented healthcare system, especially with insurance, like, hey, what's a mechanism can give them, some relief in saying, like, hey, there's no way you could have figured this out. There's no way you could have made these right choices. Um, it's not your fault. You're kind of, the system is kind of aligned against you. And again, that gives them some relief in terms of, like, hey, it's not my fault. It's actually the healthcare system, the insurance system is completely misaligned with me, and everybody's dealing with these type of situations. So again, it kind of covers that doubt number one, doubt number two, as we have going forward. And again, we get to doubt number three in terms of that I'm the exception. I'm the special snowflake. My situation is way worse than anybody else's, especially as you get into cancer and things like that. They think their situation is something that can't be solved. So again, my case is too complicated. I have multiple conditions. I've already tried getting help and it didn't work. Complexity basically becomes your identity. Like, nobody can help me because I'm in too deep. And again, here's where testimonials can help. Here's where you can share that stage 4 cancer patient that's on Medicare Advantage and was able to find the right solution, was able to, again, get that patient advocate. That patient advocate was able to work for them and get them the solutions that they were looking for, and eventually get to the type of solutions they were looking for. That knowledge from a second opinion or a third opinion was able to work with their insurance. So again, here's where specialized and segmentation and personalization is going to go a long way in terms of, like, saying, you're not the exception. Actually, if anything, we have dealt with people in worse situations than yours. So again, here's where you can kind of create those worst case scenarios and testimonials in terms of saying, like, you think your situation is bad. Let me introduce you to this other person that was in a much worse space, and we're still able to work with that person. Our patient advocates were able to get them the right information, to give them the right care, and they were able to get to the other side. So again, it kind of puts in perspective for them, like, hey, I thought my situation was special, was super complex, but actually, after hearing a couple of those stories, like, my story seems a lot more normal than before. So again, giving them that context and giving them those specialized testimonials and segmentation and personalization goes a long way of relieving some of this doubt along the way. Then doubt number 4 in terms of, like, not again. So again, I don't have the endurance to go through this process. I don't have the wherewithal to get my hopes up and then have them collapse over time. Again, this is huge, especially when we're dealing with insurance in this space. It kind of doesn't make sense. When I came to Solace's website, one of the things that doesn't really make sense for me is, like, why would insurance be looking out for people and hiring patient advocates and paying for it, especially if you have a long history of claims being denied or nickel and dimed by insurance. It doesn't really make sense to me or a lot of people, like, why all of a sudden are they going to start paying for this patient advocate, going forward? It doesn't really, what's their incentive? Like, why all of a sudden are they going to be looking out for me, where in the last 30, 40, 50 years, they seem to be doing everything against me? So again, a lot of this just goes back to, like, I don't have the energy for this. I've already spent hours on the phone. I can't go through another process. Again, we want to really just address some of this exhaustion that's going through, give them a clear line in terms of like what that process looks like going forward, but also addressing some of those hesitations. Again, like I talked about before, like if their whole experience has been like insurance has been against me, or just making my process and making my finding solutions as hard as possible, like, why all of a sudden are they going to make it easy for me? Why are they all of a sudden going to start paying for these things along the way? And I think this is the biggest thing, that I came out, like one of the biggest things that I came across in their funnel is they don't really clearly explain, like, why is insurance all of a sudden going to be on my side? So really clear, opportunities in terms of this company example, but hopefully bringing it to life a little bit more, what some of these doubts might look like, especially as you plug in your audience, as you kind of bring through that lens to them. What are they thinking about? What are those thoughts in their head? As you think of those thoughts in their head, whether there's doubts, hesitations in specific points in the funnel, whether it's going to a VSL, or reading your first prospect email, or even if it's reading a meta ad or a YouTube ad, like, what are those thoughts in their head? What are those hesitations, and how can you directly address them through the various different strategies that I talk through here? And what you do, what you'll see if you directly address some of these doubts and hesitations, is not only will your conversion rates go up, but you'll see that people are much more willing. They're less guarded as they go through the process. They're more excited about getting the results that you're looking for. And they're going to be more likely to take action. They're going to follow the steps that you have laid out. They're going to follow the process that you have out there. You're going to have a lot more success stories. You're going to have a lot more referrals. It's going to open up a whole new bag of leads for you that you thought were just a bunch of bad leads that you paid for, when in reality, it's just a bunch of leads that had a lot of hesitations and doubts. And then once you address them and kind of really think about them and are able to give them a path forward, you're going to see how your business and your sales funnel has been transformed by really living up to the potential that you thought it would, and maybe even more, because you have diagnosed and really given people a way forward around these doubts, address these doubts, instead of just creating more copy, instead of creating more landing pages, instead of creating all these different things. Just address that doubt, address those hesitations as they move forward in your process. And what you'll see is a much better funnel. And it's going to take less work along the way. Again, a lot of these things can take, again, think about my biggest wins, especially in sales funnels. I can always point to those things that made really small changes that led to really significant double digit or triple digit conversion lifts, because I just addressed that doubt, moved people forward, and they moved quickly and really drove the numbers really in a big way. So as you go and look at your audience and look at your funnel, take a look at these 4 doubts, apply that to your audience. Think about those thoughts in their head. If you want to comment below, I can run through the framework for your specific audience. If you want to just let me know what's your sales funnel look like, what's your audience, happy to kind of apply the framework and how you can start addressing this in your sales funnel as well. Until next time.